Most real estate investors spend their whole career chasing how many rentals they can get. Every guru on social media tells you that's the path to wealth. But I was able to retire at the age of 31 with only 5 rentals under my belt. And the math is a lot simpler than you would think. Today, I'll show you exactly how just 5 rental properties can replace your W-2. And then something even better than that, how you can create true financial security for yourself and your family, as well as peace of mind. So it took me about 5 years to get to 5 properties. How did I do it so quickly? The key is a concept we'll talk more about later called capital recycling, which was a complete game changer for me. Instead of saving new W-2 money for a down payment on each property, you can simply reinvest the equity on your existing properties. That's what allows you to scale faster than you may have ever imagined, eventually making your W-2 optional and creating a better life for your family. Here's what most people don't know. While you're sleeping, your tenants are making 3 deposits into your net worth every single month. 1 that you can see and 2 that you can't see. Those invisible ones, I call them ghost income, and those are the ones that truly build your wealth over time. Let me show you on the whiteboard how this looks like. Let's say that you buy a $300,000 house. Now, typical cash flow on that $300K house using the rent by the room strategy, which I go over in my other videos, is usually around $1,500 a month or $18,000 a year. In fact, using the rent by the room strategy, one of my clients, Wayu Donata, was able to make $5,500 per month in net cash flow on a single property, as you can see up on the screen right here. Just a quick summary of the idea. Let's say that you're selling a pizza. You can either sell the whole pizza for $20, or you can divide that same pizza into 6 slices and sell each slice for $7 a slice like they do in New York. So $7 per slice times 6 slices is $42, which is double the price of selling it as a whole pizza. So you sell it as a whole for $20 and you sell it as slices for $42. Even though it's the exact same pizza, you're making double the profit by selling by the slice. The same thing happens when you rent by the bedroom. You double your rental income typically. So with this method, cash flow is great, but like I said, what really builds your wealth is the ghost income. Now, the first form of ghost income is called appreciation, which is basically the value of your house going up over time. And it's represented by this blue line that's going upwards here. In a good neighborhood, appreciation will be on average 6 to 7% per year. So 7% of $300,000 is $21,000 per year that this house will go up in price. We call appreciation a form of ghost income because usually you don't keep track of it. Like my parents, they bought their place for $200,000 or so. And all of a sudden, many years later, they checked the actual home price and it was $900,000. And that's why I call it ghost income, because it's an invisible way to build your wealth. Now, the second form of ghost income is what we call loan paydown that you can see on this graph, represented by this red line that's going downwards and accelerates until it goes down to 0 eventually. Every single month, your tenant pays down your mortgage, and a little bit of that goes towards the principal. And when the principal goes down to 0, you own the house free and clear with no debt on it. And so the initial loan payoff may be around $2,500 a year on average on a 300K property, but it will accelerate towards the end to maybe about $15,000 a year in loan paydown, depending on your interest rate and terms. Now take a guess what this green shaded area is. Basically, you're adding up the appreciation that you're getting plus the loan paydown. Well, that's called the equity that you have on the property. That's the amount of the property that you actually own. So let's say that we add up the 3 ways that real estate pays you: the cash flow plus the appreciation plus the loan paydown. In this case, for this 300K property rent by the room, we get about $41,500 total, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner. And that's per year. So let's say you own this property for 2 years $41,500 times 2 years is $83,000, which is enough for another down payment on the next house. So how does this work? How do you use the equity that you built up on a property as a down payment on the next property? Well, this is what we called earlier in this video, capital recycling. Let me tell you a quick story. When I was scaling to my 4th property, the lender called me up and said, "Hey, Ryan, you don't have enough money in your bank account for a down payment on this property." Well, that was pretty embarrassing. It sounded like I had no choice but to back out of the deal. Just when I was about to throw in the towel, the lender asked me a very important question. He asked, "How long have you owned your other properties?" Because I bet those properties have equity on them because the houses went up in value by this time. You can access that equity using something called a home equity line of credit, or HELOC, which lets you take out that equity as cash to use as a down payment on the property that you're trying to buy. Problem solved. After the first 3 properties, I was able to use the equity gained on them to buy houses 4, 5, and 6 without using another dime from my W-2 income. And honestly, I could have used HELOCs even sooner than that. Let me demonstrate on the whiteboard how you can use HELOCs to scale to 5 or 6 properties in just 5 years. This is literally what I did in my first 5 years of real estate investing to own 6 properties. By the way, I know I said 5 properties in 5 years, but I did actually buy the 6th property as well before I was ready to retire. So year number 1, you can buy your first house using W-2 income. Year number 2, also buy your second house using W-2 income. But when we get to year number 3, that's when things get interesting. Remember when we talked about earlier that $300K property over the course of 2 years gains $83,000 from the equity and cash flow that you make on the property. Well, house number 1 goes up $83,000 that you can use to buy house number 3 after 2 years of gains. Year 4, it's the same idea. House number 2 gains $83,000 over the course of 2 years, which allows you to use that money to buy house number 4 in year 4. And then finally, we get to year number 5. House number 3, over the course of 2 years, went up $83,000, and we use that to buy house number 5. And then also, house number 1 probably went up another $83,000 over the 2-year gap between year 3 and 5, so we can use that to buy house number 6, and so on and so forth. And so you can see how reinvesting cash flow and using HELOCs, you're able to scale to 5 or 6 properties in just 5 years while not using any more money from your W-2 income after year number 2. Now, here's what nobody tells you about owning 6 rentals with 6 separate mortgage payments. If you're unable to fill your bedrooms for whatever reason, then you're stuck paying the mortgage out of pocket. And whatever cash flow you made the previous months can get wiped out just like that. Let's say you made $4,000 in profit and cash flow over the last 4 months. Well, let's say the next month you get vacancies and you have to pay $4,000 mortgage payments out of pocket. Well, that $4,000 just canceled out your profit. And this is exactly what gave me a lot of stress and anxiety at the very beginning of my journey. We call them vacancies, and they eat into your profit like piranhas at a feast. That's why, in addition to having strong marketing, I recommend using what I call the debt eclipse to get rid of that stress and anxiety for good. The idea behind the debt eclipse is to own your properties free and clear with no debt. Meaning that even if you have a vacancy, you don't have a mortgage payment, so you get to keep your profits. This is what leads to true peace of mind when you're retired. Let's go over how you get rid of the debt using the debt eclipse. I'll draw it out on the whiteboard so it's easier to visualize. This is a graph of your money over time. Let's say that we have 5 properties. That means that you have 5 mortgages. Now on this graph, I only draw 4 of the mortgages, which I'll explain why in a second. Our goal for the debt eclipse is to wait until the equity on one of our properties exceeds or eclipses the total debt on the other properties. Here's the equity on the one property. You can see it as this green line going upwards here. Equity goes up over time. Now there's this red line, which is the total debt on the other 4 properties, which is going down over time. And you get it by adding these 4 mortgage debt lines together. Now let's say our first property, that's $300,000, goes up to $600,000 over the course of 15 years. That's about 7% per year. 7% times 15 is 105%, so basically the property doubles in value. And for our loan, let's say we did a 15-year loan instead of a 30-year loan, so it's paid off completely in 15 years, meaning you own that $600K property free and clear. That's why I didn't draw a mortgage line for it, because it's represented by the green line instead. Now, let's say over the course of 15 years, you also paid down the other mortgages down to maybe $150K out of the original $240K on those $300K properties. And this might be because you paid it down slightly aggressively. Well, now what you can do is take the $600K equity in that one house that's paid off and use it to pay off completely the $150K debt on each of the other properties. $150K times 4 is $600K, meaning the $600K will cover all 4 mortgages on the other properties. So that $600K house is represented by the green line here, and that one point right here where the green line intersects the red line is the point where your total equity crosses your total debt. And that's when you can sell your first house to pay off the mortgages on the 4 other properties. And when you sell the first property to pay off the 4 other properties, you own the 4 properties now free and clear, debt free. So what does this even do for you? Well, even if you have vacancies now, you don't have a mortgage to pay, which means it doesn't affect you very much financially. And let's say your rental income is $3,600 per month. Well, since you don't have to pay a mortgage payment, all that's left is property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. So if you're making $3,600 a month, after all the expenses, it might still be around $3,000 a month per property. And so 4 debt-free houses will make $12,000. 3,000 times 4 is $12,000. And best of all, you get peace of mind because all of your houses are paid off. What would you do with that extra $12,000 a month coming in every single month? Would you retire early and spend more time with family? Or perhaps you would travel the world? Personally, I love traveling to get exposure to different cultures and different ways that humans live on this planet. As you can see on some of the photos that I'm displaying on the screen right now, I feel like now I have the life I dreamed of since I was a kid. Imagine yourself being able to cut down the amount of hours that you work so that you have more flexibility with your time. Or if your company tries to push your boundaries, you simply say, I quit, because you have the rental income to support you. Maybe you tell your boss to take a hike. And best of all, when you pass your rentals on to your children, they also get to own them free and clear. So they have a source of passive income that's independent of them needing to work for somebody else. Now you know that having 5 rentals is all you need to have early financial freedom. But mastering the rent by the room strategy that I very briefly mentioned earlier is really key to making profit on day 1. I broke down the entire strategy step by step so that you can use it for yourself in getting started in real estate investing up in this video right up here. Go ahead and click on that video and I'll see you in there.